What's up, family? Alrighty, so I do a lot of work with women. Okay, I do a lot of work with women, specifically around healing from mommy wounds. Okay, healing their identity that is connected to the way they were raised or not raised by their mother or their maternal parent, I should say. And so I realized that as much as I push out content regarding how to do the healing and how to name the trauma connected to it, I don't publish a lot of information around how I was birthed into this work through my mommy daughter relationship, and so I don't speak at large or at length about my mommy wounds that I've already started healing. I'm not going to say I've reached the end of healing, but have made significant progress in this particular area of my life. So I don't talk at length about my mommy wounds, my mother, my relationship with my mother, how that has evolved over time, and how that birthed me into my life purpose doing this work. So that's what this video is about. Pull up a chair and just, hang out with me while I just speak really candidly about my mom, our relationship, what it looks like today, and I guess just mommying with a mommy wound, because that's an entire situation. That's an entire master's level life lesson. All right, so if you're new here, my name is Deneen. I'll leave some details in the comments so that you guys can really get to know me and follow me elsewhere so you can get to know me on different levels. And so let's just jump into my story because I feel like I don't have any notes. God God help us all. I don't have any structure. I'm just gonna candidly speak. I wanted this to feel like a story time of sorts, the first of many story times, just a different format I'm trying out, so it's gonna feel very much like unguided, but I believe that I will intuitively hit all the high points that I need to hit without my notes. All right, so let's start off with the fact that I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. And that's all I'll say there. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. So, if you know anything about Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm not talking about the tourist attraction part, the harbor, which is lovely. I'm talking about behind the veil. If you know anything about Baltimore, you know that there are some rough spots, understatement, and in some regards, it can be viewed as, the jungle. Yeah, it's very, you shall be equipped for life if you are born and raised there. And so, born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, lived with my paternal aunt as far back as I can really remember. Okay, lived with my dad's sister, my aunt, for as far as my memory stretches. Have lived with my aunt and my grandmother, my dad's side of the family, basically. I do have a few like pre kindergarten memories of being with my mother, but most of my memories that I can pull on start when I was living with my dad's mom, my grandmother, and my dad's sister, my aunt. Okay, and that started as early as it was definitely kindergarten, pre kindergarten ish time frame. Okay, so I still don't have all of the details surrounding why I didn't live with my mother, how that was decided. Um, I don't have a lot of details about that because very few people are talking about it. It's some type of, I'm sure it's some type of drama or trauma surrounding that decision and how that unfolded. But ended up living with my aunt and her daughter, my cousin, which is like a cousin sister, and then she of course had another daughter after both of us, who is my other cousin sister. So ended up living with them. My mom has two other children. So I have a sister and a brother who are my mom's children as well. Well, I have two brothers actually, two brothers and a sister. Forgive me. It's a lot of the tree is treeing. So my mom has three other children. So I have an older brother with my mom on my mom's side, and I have a younger sister and a younger brother on my mom's side. Now on my dad's side, my dad had a older daughter, so I have an older sister. I am the link between my mom and my dad. I am the only child that they both had together, and then I ended up living with none of them. I ended up moving in with my aunt, who had an older daughter, which is like my older sister cousin, and then a younger daughter, which is like my younger sister cousin. All right, so I am both a middle child and a youngest child, depending on the dynamic. But I grew up in a house where I was the middle, younger and then middle, because my younger cousin came along later. later. She was a surprise. And so naturally, as a young person, not living with my mother, but being aware that I had a mother out there in the same city as me, that created obviously some abandonment wounds. Birthed me right on into that work, into abandonment work. Also, I didn't live with my dad, and even though I lived with his sister, he wasn't there. He won't coming over, And so, I grew up very much yearning for a relationship and a connection with my mother and my father. So abandonment wounds burst on both sides of the tree. And for as long as I could remember, I'd been yearning for a relationship with my parents. I remember, and mind you, my aunt was badass. Like, she was you know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't like I was in this horrible situation with her. And at the same time, nothing replaces the relationship of a parent and a child. Like, just nothing, And so I found myself yearning for memories with my parents. I remember making so many Mother's Day gifts, so many Father's Day gifts, and like they just would pile up year after year because I would not see them. I would not be able to get over to them. Oh, my hair. I would not be able to get over to meet with them or to hang with them, visit with them. And they would not be able to visit. They would not visit with me either. For one reason or another, we lived like not in the exact same neighborhood. We lived like in the county. They lived in the city. And so it was a nice little trip if you didn't have a vehicle or whatever. But like, as a child, you like, come see me. I don't care how you got to get here, like, get here. And so I always had, for a long time, I had the expectation, like, y'all need to come see me. Like, and I would be looking for them to come see me. And I would be looking for opportunities to visit with them or just to connect. I don't even know what I was expecting, but I could see other people with their parents who lived with them, and I was like, oh, I want that. I want to like be around my people, my parents, and have that relationship. And so I remember yearning for my parents for years, like just hoping that they would like come see me, Needless to say, that did not happen. I stopped making mommy's day gifts and daddy's gifts, Father's Day gifts. I stopped hoping that they would come. I kind of just became numb and angry. That was an entire part of my personality in middle and high school. And I just became like detached from people. At that point, I just kind of just went cold emotionally because I just found that people, aka my parents, were disappointing. And to hope for them to do something, aka my parents, was to invite disappointment that I just didn't feel like I wanted to deal with. So I morphed into this person, from this person who was like, I'm gonna see mommy and daddy one day, and I'm gonna see them today. And that person, I morphed from that hopeful, innocent child into angry, sarcastic, I'm gonna get you before you get me type of person. And that angry person was who I was for a majority of my childhood, a majority of my young adulthood. Like, that's that. And when I became, am I fast forwarding too far? I'll just say this: when I grew up into like my young adult years, I still had that guardedness, like, protect yourself against people kind of demeanor. And so even as a professional, I had a way of turning on a nice, nasty version of myself, which I know y'all know about that. Like, you nice, per my last email, but it's really got all that in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I turned it to that. And so that's that. I fast forwarded way too far. Let me rewind. Was living with my aunt forever, just forever, seriously. And eventually my aunt, who to me, my aunt was my next chance. That's my second chance at a mom. Like, okay, can't be with my mom for whatever reason that y'all not telling me. Okay, cool. Got my aunt. Love her dearly. This my family. That was my next chance. Well, my aunt morphed into, we moved into this neighborhood in Baltimore, and she morphed into a version of herself that was less badass, less on point, and more like she had fallen into drugs heavy. Okay, so she was more reflecting the neighborhood now. And the neighborhood was filled with people who sat out on the stoop, sun up to sundown, who gossiped, who, were less ambitious, etc. So she morphed into that version of herself, really fell into the neighborhood's dynamic. And as a result, she became a type of parent or caregiver that was more neglectful than attentive. And it doesn't mean she wasn't attentive in some ways. She was, but the more she fell into drug use and the neighborhood's ways, the less attentive she was. Okay, the less of a guide, of a caregiver she was. And, my cousin and I just kind of, we evolved with it. We just learned how to do a majority of things on our own, by ourselves. And so my aunt, fell heavy into drugs, and I know little light drugs. It was the big one, the big Monties, the big drugs, the ones that take you further than you want to go, and faster than you anticipated going. All right, so she fell into that. That created, as some of you guys are already aware, if you grew up in a house with substance abusers, that created an environment, a home environment that was very unstable, okay, very unpredictable, and very much lacking certain things. And so I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to protect myself. I learned how to attend to myself in sorts. Not in a nurturing way, but more in a survival mode kind of way. Okay. And so that became my next example of a mother-daughter relationship. Okay. Obviously not healthy. However, it definitely was another relationship that birthed me into this work that I am currently doing. So it was very purposeful, but just very difficult relationship lessons there. And so I found solace at a church that was like right there behind our neighborhood. And I remember, because I was raised in church. We used to, before my aunt got into like drugs and things like that, I feel like we used to go, I don't know if she went, but definitely my other aunts and my grandparents and stuff like that. I think they encouraged it, or they went. I'm trying to go back in my memory that we used to go to this Baptist church. I mean, it felt like consistently, because I remember sleeping in the pews, eating candy, drawing in the pews as a kid. I remember being on the child's choir. I got baptized there because they definitely dunk you. Ain't no sprinkle at the Baptist church. You going under full submersion, because I remember thinking I'm gonna drown and I'm gonna really meet Jesus. This is really gonna happen. And so I remember going to church, but for some reason we stopped. And I know that we stopped because I can recall, and when I was in my like early teen years, angry as all outdoors, I can recall a neighborhood girl and friend who kept trying to get me to come to the church right there. Like, you could walk, you can kick a rock to it. It's like behind, it's right there. Like, I could look at it. That's the church right there in our neighborhood. I can remember her trying to get me to go to the church over and over again, asking me. And I was like, not today, but keep asking me, kind of thing. And eventually she asked me, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. And I went, and I found solace at the church. I was seeking something, safety or belonging or community or something that I just found like the church could give me. And so, still knee deep in my mommy wounds, still feeling abandoned, unattended to, unguided in this world, unsupported, I just feeling unloved. I went to the church. I joined the church. My cousin as well. We joined the church. We sang on the choir. We danced on the dance ministry. We went to the young women's ministry meetings. We joined the youth groups, and we were there probably 6 days out of 7. All right, like we ate there after school because they had an after school program. This is the place that we went to that took care of us. And so I thought, looking back, there were mommy wounds and trauma that was also birthed through that experience as well. But at the time, the church was way better of an environment than my home environment. And so I was like, oh, this is a come up. All is well, and so heavily in the church, heavily seeking God, gave myself permission to ask difficult questions about why is my relationship with my mom like this? Why me? Why my parents, neither one of them could get it together to have me or house me or raise me, and gave myself at that point permission to ask those kind of questions, even though I didn't feel like I was receiving any answers. So yeah, but still very angry, still very sarcastic. Met two of my mentors at that time. One was a female mentor. One was a female mentor. One was a male mentor. So kind of like surrogate parents, surrogate mom, surrogate dad, etc. And I had a whole lot of siblings, spiritual surrogate siblings. I just had a whole community there. And that worked. That worked for a while. My mommy wounds were still bleeding out on people. In my 20s, I really started dating. I really couldn't emotionally connect to a lot of people before my 20s because my emotions were so... I was so... I don't even know how to explain it. Like, just not in a good way. So more angry than a lover. And so just could not connect really to people in my life on an emotional level. Still in high school, still hoping to see my parents. Once I started driving, I took the initiative to go visit my mom. I found out where she lived. I went over there, but the conversations were always so brief. It was like we didn't know what to talk about. We were strangers, and so we would try to connect, but it just wasn't. It it just wasn't deep connection. And I would get a chance to meet with my siblings, my little sister and my brother, and they were super younger at that point, so they weren't as much into communication either. But just really strained relationships because it was so much distance between us. We had no memories together, and so that was high school. Ended up going away to college to another state, starting just a whole fresh new life. Of course, attracting surrogate parents, surrogate relationships, and things like that, but still bleeding out from my mommy wound. At this point, I'm starting to date, starting to make choices about who I'm dating, how I'm behaving in these relationships based on my miseducation, because I didn't have any education on, being a woman, how to vet a partner who is compatible for you, what to accept, what not to accept, like those things, like those lessons that a caregiver, a maternal caregiver would teach you. I didn't have those. And so I just did what most people did. We figured out trial and error. And eventually, I attracted a ton of trauma bonds, a ton of people who were bleeding out from the same unhealed mommy daddy wounds as I was. So we obviously was like, cousin, we family, because we bleeding out the same. So I attracted a ton of trauma bonds. Ended up attracting my daughter's father, who, mind you, I love deeply to this day. So that's not even what this is about. This is more so just me showing you the timeline of how I attracted certain wounded relationships into my life, because I had a wounded relationship with my parents that, at the time that I met these people. And so attracted my daughter's father. We had a time. A time was had. But definitely a trauma bond. We definitely both came in on a trauma bond. That's how we were so magnetically connected to each other. And began to really see the extent of my unhealed mommy daddy wounds while being in this marriage, and then birthing a child maybe 4 years after we got married. We birthed our child. We birthed Zozo into this world, and really could see myself. Like, you talk about 360 view, like full circle. Could really see how, if I didn't heal these unhealed mommy daddy wounds, I was definitely going up out of here early. Like, something, life was going to squeeze me till I was gone. Like, for real. Like, I just really was able to see, like, like, ain't no trying to be no mommy when you got these unhealed mommy wounds. It's no trying to be no wife and no stable partner when you got these unhealed mommy daddy wounds. Like, this ain't gonna work. This gonna fall apart. Like, this gonna deconstruct on its own. It's gonna unravel from the inside out. Like, it's just, we had big events that was just like, we in trauma. We're just recreating trauma. We're recreating the unhealthy pattern that we hated in our childhood, that we wished we never had to experience. And we're recreating it in this relationship. And if we got a child, then we about to recreate it for her too? No. We both, her dad and I, we both, acknowledged that we wanted to do things way differently than our parents had done them, because we were seriously traumatized by some of the things that we went through by way of our parent relationships. And so once we got into the marriage, into the parenthood with solid intentions, guys, we realized that, intentions alone don't help. You actually need to be equipped. You need skills to figure out how not to repeat these cycles. And so I felt like I reached a breaking point in August of 2017, August of 2017, because by January of 2018, I had joined a sister healing circle in my community. And it was a ton of strangers that I did not know, but we were all needing to heal from our parent wounds and all needing to heal our womb because of some trauma related to our mommy's relationships and our parent relationships and things like that, our childhood trauma. And so we all had the same need, and so we decided to heal as a community, even though it was the first time any of us had done this kind of healing work in a community ever. And so joined that in 2018 because I just intuitively knew. I was like, if I keep bleeding out over this mommy daddy wound, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be real bad. And so I committed to healing this mommy wound, and I did it. I kept my daughter's father aware of what I was doing as I was doing it. I invited him to come along on the journey, because I told him I have to heal this no matter what. I have to heal this whether you heal your stuff or not. Like, I have to get to the end of healing this. I can't just keep doing little pieces of this healing and hoping it'll go away. I need to go all the way through this. I told him that very clearly. Like, I need to see this all the way through, because I have a daughter and I do not want to recreate my childhood trauma for her if I don't have to. And so I took it very seriously, even probably more so than some of the sisters in the sister circle at the time. Like, some of them, they were like, ooh, I didn't do some of the reading. I was like, girl, but I read that thing twice. Like, I was as studious, you know what I'm saying? Because I felt like it's this or I'm a bust. Like, this is I'm at rock bottom. I need this. I need to heal this mommy wound. At this point, I'm in my early 30s. So I've been holding this mommy wound for 3 decades. I was like, oh, I need to heal this. I can't live like this anymore. And I started doing the work. And it absolutely turned me inside out. I will say that. But it is the reason that I can show up so grounded and so insightful for other people right now. It is the reason that I am able to hold such space with compassion. It's the reason that I have been able to break open into this nurturing, soft version of myself that knows that she is safe, knows that she has been provided for. Like, that work is the only reason. Oh, that's my Zozo calling. Hold on, y'all. She called to ask if I was coming down to cook breakfast soon. And so I'm going to do a part 2, I guess, of this video. Just to let you guys know. So I brought you up to January of 2018 when I joined the sister circle initially. So you're at that point. And so that's roughly about 5 years ago at this point. 2021, yeah, it's about 5 years ago. And so still healing the mommy wound. So I'm going to do a part 2 to catch you up from 2018 to present. What happened after I joined the Sister Healing Circle and how that began to heal all the things. But alrighty, lovelies. Talk to you soon.